Good day, everybody. Hey. Good evening. I am so happy that you are here. Listen, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we've had some great conversations during this month. We've had wonderful conversations about domestic violence and faith communities and domestic violence in the workplace. We've had conversations about domestic violence in the military. We've had conversations with domestic violence survivors. It has been an awesomely amazing, informative, and inspiring month. And today is the last day of Domestic Violence Month. So we're doing something a little different today. We're doing something a little different for our relationships research and reality conversation. Today, I'm going live. Woo. I'm going live, y'all. I'm going live for this conversation about an interesting show that's been coming out. It's out now. You know, people who know that I do this domestic violence work were just texting me and calling me and messaging me saying, Dr. K, have you seen this show called Maid? I'm like, Maid? No, what is it? And everybody who knows me said, you have got to watch this show called Maid. So I started watching the show. It's on Netflix, y'all. Started watching the show, and I'll tell you, woo, there's a lot there, y'all. There's a lot there. What I found most fascinating is that it epitomized domestic violence, but it's the part about domestic violence that most people don't see. Most people don't recognize. This show highlights emotional, psychological abuse. Yeah. Good show on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, check it out. Listen, it's for grown folk now. It's for grown folk. Y'all hear me? It's for grown folk. So, but check it out. If you get a chance, check it out. I'm like all triggered, all in my thoughts, there's just so much there. There's so much there. And I'm so glad that I don't have to do all of this thinking and processing by myself. So on today's relationship reality, relationships, research, and reality, I have invited one of my really good friends to come on in the space with me. Hey, what's up, Reverend Wendy Hamilton? Hey, hey, you're on mute, Rev. You're on mute. I'm so glad you're here, sis. I'm so glad you're here. First of all, because I haven't seen you in like forever. And like, wait, how long has it been?
Oh my goodness.
It's been a long time, sis.
Yeah, a couple of years. Yes.
Couple of okay, at best, couple of years.
Yeah, we just gonna leave it at that. We see each other on Facebook, but in real life, you know, and there wasn't 18 months. Nobody was seeing anybody.
Well, that's true.
That's
true.
So.
That's true. But I am glad you are here. Reverend Wendy Hamilton is doing some amazing work, family. She is one of the people that I've had an opportunity to work with, and one of the people that I truly admire. She is somebody who is walking in her call. She is living by faith. She is doing those things that other people would say you shouldn't do or it's impossible to do. She is just awesomely amazing. So Reverend Wendy, thank you for being here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Before we really get into our discussion, what is going on in your world? I'm hearing stuff about campaigns and running and trying to make DC a state and all of that good stuff. So what's happening in your world? What's happening?
Well, so I did a thing.
Come on.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Kesslyn. It's always good to see you. And you are someone I greatly, deeply admire. Everything you said about me, I could just, repeat right back to you, sis. So thank you so much. And thank you for what you're doing and using your voice you are an instrument in many ways, so if you break out singing on here too, I'll be all right.
Wait, man, don't tell all the stuff now. Folks don't know all of that.
Just saying, she got a voice, I'm just saying. But in my world in particular, yes. So since you and I were together as chaplains and working over at Georgetown University, my life has shifted into the public service sphere. As you know, that was always an interest of mine. Yeah. And I've helped out with different campaigns. Politics has always been something from a social justice perspective that has interested me. And certainly after the previous administration tried to take us back 17 centuries, I really felt in those moments compelled to do something. It was either tuck my tail and run or raise up my head and fight. Yeah. Too much was happening. I was afraid for our country and particularly for our city. DC is my home, my adult home. I'd like to call that my adult home DC because it's where I grew up. I came here 17 years old from Ohio to DC to go to Howard University, HU. And and this is where I found my roots. This city grew me up. And so with the long story short, I am now currently running to represent this city that I love so much. I am currently a candidate for the United States House of Representatives DC delegate in 2022.
Wait a minute. That was too fast, Reverend Wendy. That was too fast. I need you to roll that back.
All right.
Slow it down so the people can hear what you're doing. You said you are what now?
I am a candidate.
Yes.
For the United States House of Representatives, Congress.
Come on.
As DC delegate in 2022.
Yes.
I want to represent authentically the voice of DC on Capitol Hill.
Come on. I'm going to give you some applause because that's just woo.
Yeah, thank
man,
you.
Those conversations in the tombs has materialized. For those of you who know anything about Georgetown, you know about the tombs.
Exactly.
And those conversations are coming to light. I'm so proud of you, sis. I'm proud of you and the work that you're doing. So
thank you so much.
God bless you.
A labor of love. It's not something I, am taking lightly, nor is it about me. It's certainly about the people and the residents of this city, but it's also about walking in what we believe we're called to do and to be in a particular moment. And God is gracing me to do that. And so you know me and you know my life has always been guided. I've always said, here I am, Lord, send me.
Yes.
And this is the next assignment that has unfolded for me. And so by God's grace, I stepped into it and we'll let the people decide next June 21st, 2022. But y'all can check me out, RevWendyForCongress.com. I had to put that out there.
Come on. Where can the people find you? Say it again.
RevWendyForCongress.com. I'm also on all social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram.
Wait. You do something on Friday. What is it that you do on Friday?
I dance and do my $5 Friday dance. So every $5 Friday, and I find me. That's my social media team right there. Like, okay, we got to do something, bring some funds in, because we're a grassroots campaign. We've got, we're not funded by big corporations or banks. You can't buy my influence. I'm running for the people, so I'm supported by the people, and so I get.
All right.
Because that all adds up, and so I'm very grateful. But Fridays is $5 Friday, so I do my little dance, my little jig, and people tend to respond to that. So
awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work that you do, and thank you for being here. We are here tonight to talk about something that is impacting the people. What we know is that 1 in 3, 1 in 4 women have been impacted at some point in their lives by domestic violence. And we know that 1 in 4 or 1 in 7 men have also been impacted by domestic violence at some point in their lives, at some point. Yes. And what fascinated me, and I'm so thankful that the timing just worked out. What is fascinating to me is that usually when we talk about domestic violence, right, we talk about physical abuse. But as I'm ending this month of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I want to highlight what we see as abusive in this Netflix series called Maid. Now, listen, I told y'all, it's for grown folk, y'all. It's for grown folk. But there's a lot there, Reverend Wendy. We got a chance to talk really briefly about, some of the things that we saw in Maid, and we talked about it being triggering to some degree. What was it about the show? I saw your response to a post. What was it about the show that kind of was triggering for you? That just kind of, it brought it real and made it real for you.
Well, I have to say that I did not know what to expect or even what I was going to be watching when I turned it on. I don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch series these days.
Hello,
somebody. But I took the time last week and, decided, last weekend, and let me just check out and see what's new on Netflix. And I heard a little bit about this show and that it was talking about domestic violence. So I took a deep breath before okay, now let me get ready, because I don't know which way this series is going to go. And doctor, I got through about 2 episodes and I had to stop it for a minute. Because it was so true to life and so real for me. And the abuse part that I know we're going to talk about, the emotional abuse part, certainly, but the impact and the choices and the places that the abuse was landing the main character in is what was speaking so deeply to me. When you have someone who is holding back things from you, taking away your ability to survive or to thrive or to go to work and things like that, this young woman then was forced to kind of have to go on government assistance, rely on the on the bureaucracy and the bureaucrats to help her in her situation. It was in essence a single mother, because she had this young baby that she had to take around with her, and whatever was impacting her was impacting this child. And so I'm watching this and having been a single mother and remembering about the decisions that I had to make, like, am I going to feed her or am I going to put gas in the car? And the way that they would demonstrate that on the show, her thinking, she's at the gas station and she's thinking in her mind, I got $5 in my pocket, and they show the money on the screen, and as it's going down, she's thinking in her mind, I can maybe get $3.50 in gas and then take another $1 and use
and get the toy for the baby.
Well, the baby wanted a toy from the dollar store. You understand what I'm saying? And having to negotiate these things. That's abusive in and of itself. You understand? That's
Yeah.
mentally
Yeah.
abusive because you're in a situation where you are hopeless. And that's what emotional abuse does. It disarms us of our
Mhm.
capacity to have agency.
And what was interesting to me is when she went to, I think it was the social worker. She went to the
Mhm.
social worker, and the social worker said, "Are you a domestic violence victim?" And she said,
Uh-huh.
"No,
Mhm.
no, that's not me." She didn't recognize
Right.
because he hadn't hit her.
Mhm.
She didn't recognize that she
Mhm.
was a victim slash survivor of domestic violence. She was
Right.
living it and didn't recognize that that's what it was. And so many people, that's their life experience. We
Yeah.
think of domestic violence only as physical abuse, but it is so much more. Right?
Mhm.
I like how you
It
described it.
is
When
so
somebody
layered.
is trying to take your agency, when somebody's trying to take your rights to make a decision. You know, he took the bank
Mhm.
card, so she had no money. The little $20 that
Mhm.
she had to think, how am I going to feed my child? How am I going to get gas in the car? How am I going to get to a job that ended up not paying her? Which I was like, oh Lord, like,
Mhm.
oh mercy, you know. And but let
Yeah.
me say something about just the production value. I really
Mhm.
appreciated that they showed her thoughts. You know what I
Yes.
mean? They
Yes.
the little captions on the right side showed what she was thinking, even though she didn't say it. Because what she was thinking was so valuable in giving us insights
Yeah.
about what survivors think,
Yes.
right? I appreciated that.
It was
Um, Go ahead, Reb.
it was also showing it was also showing things that she would like to say that she didn't feel empowered to say, because
Yes.
some of the things people say to you when you find yourself in a cycle of need or reaching out for assistance are quite degrading or dehumanizing. But because
Yes.
you feel desperate or find yourself in a desperate situation, we feel like we have to take that, which is sort of abusive in and of itself. So
Yes.
it's layered in a different way. But you would hear her wanting to say in her mind, why would I want to, she would want to respond a certain way, but that's not what she was in a position
That's right. That's
to
right.
say it.
That's right. I just I appreciated the production value that added. I think that just was so powerful. It really was powerful. So there were so many things that I was found myself taking notes, and I thought about
Yes.
um the rights of a victim and
Mm-hmm.
how she really, in some regards, she wasn't broken enough, and in
Mm-hmm.
other regards, she was too broken
Right.
to be able to access what was
Right.
available,
Right.
right? What rights did she have? I thought about oh my goodness, how expensive childcare is.
Yes.
Ooh, when I had my baby, my first baby, which we remember when that happened. When
Yes.
we've been friends that long, and now she's 11. but
Yes.
ooh, but I remember calling a daycare just to see how much it costs for childcare, and I thought, I'm a doctor and I can't afford childcare.
Right.
For
Right.
real, for real. I
Right.
have multiple degrees and I
Mhm.
cannot afford to put my child in a particular daycare.
Listen, when I had my baby, she's of course almost 30 now, but it brought me back to a time where the same thing. I've got a degree from Howard University, and I'm working, and I'm looking for adequate child care.
Come on.
Just something where I feel like my child can be safe, and that, and wound up having to find someone, a lady who had an in-home care service, and didn't feel safe, but it was what I could afford in the moment. And went to pick up my child one day, and she was clearly intoxicated, the caregiver. So I had to take her out of that situation in that moment, and all of the things that you have to navigate when it comes to the system, when you are someone who's dependent on the system, are only exacerbated when much of that is as a result of an abusive relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this morning, a part of what I was thinking was about what roles I need to play, what role or roles I need to play in changing the system.
Woo.
I mean, and it was an overwhelming thought for me. It was an overwhelming thought. I have testified on, in Annapolis. I have testified. Have written testimony, but sometimes it just seems like it's not enough. I've talked about stalking and emotion. Can I tell you that, and you may already know, but in many states, emotional abuse is not even considered a part of domestic violence. There are no rules. The
Mhm.
standard of proof for emotional abuse is so high
Yes.
that it's almost, you can't reach it.
Right.
Can't reach it.
You can't define it. There's no sort of boilerplate, explanation of what it is, nor can you quantify the impact or the effects that
Right.
that abuse is having on your life, on your livelihood, and things of that nature. We just
Right.
haven't written those laws yet, unfortunately, or they're not nuanced enough to take into consideration all of what emotional abuse looks like and what it can bring. And so you're talking about the system. And the other thing in this movie that was unfortunate for the young lady was that when she went out to seek some assistance, she was in need of, she didn't really even have solid support or references that she could get. One job was saying
Right.
to her, you can get this job, but we need somebody to write a letter, in support of you, or tell us a little bit about you. And as you might have seen, her mother doesn't have the capacity to do that because her mother's struggling with her own mental health issues.
Yep.
The father was estranged from her, so she didn't even have any place to turn. And that happens for a lot of emotional abuse victims. In many regards, the abuser sometimes will alienate you from your family, and
Yep.
to prevent you from
Absolutely.
having that, prevent you from having that lifeline of support outside of them. In this sister's case, he didn't,
In this
but they
sister's
weren't
case, he
available
didn't.
because
Wait,
of
gotta
their
back it up.
own
Gotta
issues
back it up.
they were trying to
In
work
this
through.
sister's case, he didn't. You were saying in this
I
sister's
said in
case, he
this
didn't.
sister's case, he wasn't necessarily preventing her from seeing her family. It was just that the family that she could see was not available to provide her much support or reference either. And she had to try
Absolutely.
to explain that to the claims worker, that she didn't know if she would be able to get a letter of reference from a parent to help give her a boost on finding employment.
And this is to be able to keep her child. When I think about, I mean, for those of you who have not seen Maid, we are talking about Maid, the Netflix series.
Yeah.
When I think about how she must have felt when the court, now she's in an emotionally abusive relationship, but never knew that she needed to make a police report. The police wouldn't have I mean, in many situations, because emotional
Mhm.
abuse, there are no physical scars. What can you do, right?
Right.
So the judge
Mhm.
asked, have you filed a police report? Have you done this? Have you done that? First of all, she didn't even know she was in a domestic violence situation because there were no physical signs, but she didn't know that she should have gone to do all of these things to help her case. I always say
Right.
people don't get married to get divorced. You don't get married into a domestic violence relationships. It becomes a domestic violence relationship. I
Mhm.
wonder, if she had known that it would end up where it was, maybe she would have made some different decisions had she known. But all of this comes to the point where she's in front of a judge, and her emotionally abusive mate or spouse is seeking custody of her child, and the judge says he gets the child.
Yep. Yes. And again, throws her into further depths of hopelessness and
Yes. Yeah.
situations being out of her control and not sure how she is going to find her way out of them. And
Right.
I just, it's in those moments where you begin to feel for her, but you also remember times in your own life where you may have felt just as helpless, particularly when it comes to the system. Like you're
Absolutely. And as Reverend Wendy is coming back in, this is the other reality. She did get help. She did go into care. She was able to get a shelter support, but it was so challenging for her. It was so challenging. She met a friend. I don't want to tell the whole story, but let's just say that the storyline was so true to form, true to life, because her friend went back to her abusive situation. Do you know that many people in many circumstances and situations leave but return to an unhealthy abusive relationship?
Yep.
Statistics say, this is research, right? Research says that women, survivors, most of whom are women, leave the relationship, but they return 7 times before they leave for good. We saw that play out in this story. We saw that. We saw it. And I just, it is not, I've heard people say, well, it must not be that bad or she would have left. People have no idea the emotional weight that's connected to that decision. So if you know somebody who has left and gone back, be there. Just encourage them. Don't throw them away. They're already isolated enough. Be there for that person. Be there for that person. One other thing, I mean, there's so much. Her level of vulnerability was just Murphy's Law. If it could have gone wrong, it went wrong for this person.
Every time. And
every time.
There was an instance in there you had mentioned, where you saw that the friend had loaned her a truck to use. She had another male friend in her life, and he was trying to be there for her and provide some things. He caught her at a low moment where she was sleeping there in the terminal with her child, and offered some help. And what's interesting about that, Kesslyn, is everybody wasn't necessarily on board with the help that he was trying to provide. I mean, on the one hand, he was trying to appear genuine in terms of what he was trying to offer her, but you also have to be careful when you are in a vulnerable position, in a vulnerable moment. That is oftentimes too where you are open for other people to come and even exploit that vulnerable position that you might be in. And your defenses, like I said, your defensive have already been worn down by the situation. And so you may not always be able to pick up.
Right. Absolutely. May not always be able to,
on that weak moment or that weak time in your life that you're having.
Yeah. It's that was real. Let's talk about her family. No, let's talk about his family. Woo woo. We call it co-occurring disorders. So he seemingly came from an alcoholic, substance using and abusing family. And he was repeating the cycle.
Right.
What got me? Well, there are several things, but what was difficult for me was when she called to check on the baby girl. And his mother said she's sleeping.
Yes.
She said she's sleeping. It's 5 o'clock in the
In
afternoon.
the
And the mother
afternoon.
said she's sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, she's sleeping. The mother
Mm-hmm.
said, why is my child sleeping? She was 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the husband boyfriend's mother said, I gave her some Robitussin. I think it was Robitussin, some cold
Yes.
medicine.
Uh-huh.
I said, oh. The mother said, the baby's mama said, she's too young for that. She's not supposed to have that. And I thought, it starts that young.
That young. Mm-hmm.
This baby was already being introduced to alcohol.
Right. Alcohol and um, being conditioned to believe that she's inconvenient to whatever other plans folks might be having. So let me give you a little bit of rope to put you to sleep because
Yes.
I really don't have time. I've got things I need to be doing right now. And I'm in this situation really because, my son, because it really came off as that she wasn't really that interested in having the baby there, but
Right.
she's
Right.
trying to maybe be there for her son in a way. And so it was also beginning that cycle for that young baby and you and I talked about this offline, how in these abusive, codependent types
Yeah.
of existences, the children, are the collateral damage. They become the pawns. They become sort of the entity where the damage for them starts early.
Yes.
And they have to wind up unpacking it years down the road. And so, yeah,
If they unpack it.
There's that. If they
Yeah. If
unpack
they
it,
unpack, because he wasn't ready to unpack his stuff, right?
not at all.
Dad wasn't ready.
Mm-mm.
He wasn't ready.
Nope.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of this abusive relationship that the main character is in and trying to work through the system that's kind of abusing her in its own way by exploiting her pain or her lack of clarity around what type of situation you're in, then you've got this chaos in her family and in her environment. It was just like a perfect storm
Oh
that
my
this young lady
goodness.
found herself in. And I can't even imagine how any person can remain sane in navigating all of the aspects of this abusive conundrum that she found herself in.
Hot mess.
That too.
Hot
that
mess.
that too. And how she just relegated herself in many ways to this is just my existence. This is just, going to be how it is. And I'm just going to have to try my best to deal with it.
Rev Wendy, as I think about some of the signs of emotional abuse that we're seeing in the movie, the thing that struck me, and we're not going to tell you everything. You gotta watch the show. It's Maid on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's a must see. Now it is triggering.
Yes.
I will tell you, it can be triggering. So, just be aware.
Mm-hmm.
But when she was talking about her beautiful pink chair, and when she said that her circumstances led her to this place, and he was angry about a decision that she made, and he threw the beautiful pink chair out in the rain. That's emotional abuse.
Exactly what it is.
When he got drunk, he was in a drunken state, and he punched the wall right beside her head. That's emotional abuse. When he would call her names, that's emotional abuse. And I believe that he was repeating a cycle of what he had seen. And she may have been repeating a cycle that she had lived through,
Exactly right.
but it's emotional abuse.
When someone incites fear
Yes.
in you, that is emotional abuse. When someone minimizes
Yeah.
your intelligence, your capacity, your abilities, or your capabilities. Uh, and when someone repeatedly does this, but then asks for uh, a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance, and I won't do it this time, and the next time, and I was just out of it, or I was just a bad, not like your you
Uh-oh.
someone else's emotional capacity.
Mm. Say it again, Rev. Say it again.
You are not responsible for another adult's emotional capacity, stability, or any of that. You are
Absolutely.
only responsible for your own emotional stability and how you respond to others' emotional stability. But getting somebody whole and healthy and well is not your responsibility.
So let's end this segment because we might have to come back. I don't know, but let's end this segment with by talking about her strengths.
Okay.
Well, okay, I'm going to talk about her strengths,
All right.
but then I'm going to introduce one more topic. Okay,
Okay.
her strengths. I think when she finally got it, I can't be responsible for him and his decisions.
Mhm.
And she didn't know, she didn't have a name for emotional abuse or domestic violence, but she knew that this wasn't the answer. In fact, she said when he threw the chair out,
Mhm.
that's she was afraid from that day on.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
she knew that something wasn't quite right and she did stay, but I can appreciate
Mhm.
that when she made up her mind,
Yeah.
she was out of Dodge.
Mhm.
And as frustrating as it was going through the system, somebody responded on social media, I didn't like the social worker. Look, I'm a social worker. We all are different. Our job is very difficult. But she stuck with it. And she
Mhm.
made she made the best of her circumstances while
Mhm.
still doing what she had to do to protect her child as much as she could. That's strength.
That's her resilience
Oh yes.
and her ability to persevere
Yes.
was, and I know much of it was related to her love for her daughter,
Yes.
uh, that kept
Won't
her
won't
going.
won't that do it? Won't that
That,
do it?
that will do it. That you will find yourself in some precarious situations doing whatever needs to be done
For
to
your
protect
child.
that baby.
That's
And
right.
and there were many a time where she and anyone could have just said, that's it. I have reached my level. Everybody's telling me no. Nothing around me is changing. Nothing
Yeah.
in me is changing.
Yeah.
I do not have any hope. This is just the way it's always going to be, and I'm just going to resign myself. She never reached that place. Maybe for a season, but she eventually
Because that's
was
real though, Reverend. That's real. We
able.
all go through our seasons,
Hmm. Hmm.
but
So
then
for a
she got up.
season, she felt that, but then she got up. I don't know if you remember when the uh, judge, made the decision about the daughter, and she went back to that apartment, and she was on the floor.
Oh yeah.
And you remember?
Oh
And her
yeah.
friend said, "You cannot stay on this floor." She was on
Come
the
on.
floor back there in a fetal position. We've been there. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And her friend was
absolutely.
like, "I am not going to let you stay on this carpet."
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that
Thank God for good friends.
listen, thank God for good friends who see the true you,
Yeah.
even when you can't see yourself.
Yes. Yeah. That's good. All right. So here we go. Here, you ready, Reverend Wendy? You ready? So the
I'm ready.
question came about on Facebook.
Yes.
What if she was a woman of color?
Yes. Mhm.
Would the show have even been made?
Mhm.
Would it be getting this much attention?
Mhm.
Would she have gotten the assistance that she needed?
Mhm.
Would her circumstances have been worse? There are so many questions that surfaced
Mhm.
about whether this show, her circumstances would be different
Mhm.
if she was black
Mhm.
or a woman of a different ethnic racial background. What you think? Let's talk. What you think, Doc? What you think, Rev? What you
Well,
think? Talk
I
to
got
me.
I got that question as well. And someone said, not to bring race into it, but some people are saying that the only reason this
Oh, we lost you. We lost you. And Lord, we can't lose you on that one. We
and
can't
had
lose you
she
on
been a
that one.
woman of
Back it up.
color,
Back it up. I said, we lost you. We can't lose you on that one. You said some people are saying,
can you
we good. We good.
I said some people are saying, you know, I don't mean to bring race into it, but if she were a woman of color, I don't know if this movie would have been getting the same sympathy and the same, play and attention and things like that. And so I just kind of want to put that out there. And I get the tendency to want to do that. But for me, I honestly said, I'm actually glad in this instance it wasn't a woman of color. Because you
Mm,
know what? We're relegated to those roles most
mm,
times. And we're
mm.
often seen in that light, the help or things like that. And I don't think people they would have dismissed the movie outright and missed all of this about the emotion.
The emotional abuse and all of that good stuff. Yeah,
Um,
they would have missed it.
Grateful that
Yeah.
they wouldn't have even paid. They would, if that would have been made and it would have been a woman of color, they would have already had preconceived notions of what it was going to be about and not even necessarily bothered to watch. When I see the
Mm-hmm.
conversations happening about this movie in circles of people who have never taken an opportunity to pay attention that poverty transcends race, that these movies, and the subject matter that was happening in there doesn't only happen in the Black community, no matter how much y'all would like to pretend that it doesn't. I felt like that was important. And the fact that one of the most wealthy and successful people in the movie was a Black woman that
Hmm.
this white woman went to serve. How often do we see that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I want to, take it in the broader context that I was actually in this instance glad that we got an opportunity for people's defenses to be down or their preconceived notions to be down so that they could look at it and say, oh, wow, man, this is, ooh, because I've seen plenty of men who watched this movie and
Yeah.
are having conversations about not really realizing perhaps that maybe they have been emotionally abusive and not looking at some of these men are seeing themselves in Sean in ways that they were thinking, oh, that's just, we were just in an argument, not really, characterizing
Good
that
point.
as abuse. And
Good
so for
point.
me, I am grateful that it wasn't a Black, because they would not have paid one bit more attention to it if they had seen a Black face on the cover of that movie, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Good point, Rev. Good point, Rev. Listen, Rev, I could talk about it. I could talk about it. I am so thankful that I got a chance to talk about it with you.
Yeah.
My sister Howard girl, my
Yes.
sister Georgetown chaplain friend.
Yes.
It's been good. It's been good. All right, for one more again for the people. One more again. Where can we
Well,
find you? How can we support you?
Well, let me just say before I get to that part that it
Absolutely.
is a very powerful story. It's a conversation that is long overdue.
Yes.
That it needs to be had. I appreciate the acting in it. The storyline certainly, but the trueness. And now I don't know if you know this, but the mother, her mother, the woman that plays her mother, that's her mother.
Oh.
Andy McDowell is the actress's real mother. So they had the
Mm.
benefit of the mother-daughter relationship chemistry, which
Mm.
made this even stronger, right?
Wow.
Because that is her daughter, Andy McDowell's daughter, playing the lead. So
Wow.
so yeah, I hope that the conversations that this film has sparked continue, that they go even more deeply into, like you said, fixing the system. Because ultimately, that's what I came away with. Yes, emotional abuse is real and it's just as pervasive as any other abuse, and also the system is deeply broken.
Yes.
And broken systems break people. And if you've got broken people coming into broken systems, you're breaking them even further. And that's not healthy. So we've got to do something about the system. We've got to do something about the legislation. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for Congress.
Come on now.
In
Yes.
Washington, D.C., to give voice and give rise to these issues so that people understand, because we are losing people to these relationships, to the system. Folks are falling through the cracks. The social safety net got all kinds of holes in it. Okay. So let's get ourselves to a place where we don't have to have folks as dependent on the system as they are right now, and help them to, and empower them to be able to get out of these situations. You know, a lot of people remain in these situations because it's a financial issue. You know, they don't have the money or the resources to leave. So let's come up with some programming where we can get some money in people's hands, so that if they need to get out in that moment and go, they've got some money to get out and go. So you can reach me and find me, like I said, RevWendyForCongress.com. I'm on all social media platforms at Rev Wendy, or on Twitter at
see
Rev
the bottom
Wendy.
of the screen. Check it at the bottom of the screen. We got you. We got you, Rev.
Yeah, please check me out. Follow me.
You're doing amazing work. We are so
continue to use your voice.
Yes, we're so thankful. Listen, I'm thankful that you have been here with me. I am honored and I am appreciative of your time and your presence. I also know that you have more work to do in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to just say thank you, Reverend Wendy, for your awesome work. For those of you who are listening to this, you may be hearing the replay. Please know that there is support for you. Know that there's support for you. There's a domestic violence hotline that is at the bottom of your screen, 1-800-799-SAFE or 799-7233. For those of you, I always have to put a plug in for those of you who are doing research. Listen, when I say that your research matters, your research matters. Your research is what changes policies and practices. Your research is what Reverend Wendy can use as her data for implementing change. Your research is what we need. So I just want to remind you that your research matters. If you're thinking about doing a doctoral degree, do it. Do it. Help us to resolve some of these issues like domestic violence or child abuse or environmental justice issues or racial justice issues. There are so many issues that need to be addressed. Whatever you want your research to be in, it matters. So if you're thinking about getting a doctoral degree, go ahead and get it. If you're in a doctoral program, I know that it is not easy, but please stick with it. Please. And if you need support getting in, through, or out of a doctoral program, we at the PhD Consultants are here to support you. People say, Dr. Kesslyn, what does domestic violence have to do with research? You may not know that my research area is domestic violence. And while I do scholarship and I support doctoral folk throughout the year, October is my month when I put my scholarship and my practice hat together and I bring awareness to the issues of domestic violence. And that's how I make my research real, because my research matters too. We're here to help you. If you want to learn more, if you want to talk to me, if you want resources, if you want additional support for doing your doctoral degree, please reach out to me at www.drkesslyn.com. If you want to schedule an appointment with me, your time is there. There's also, you see this book behind me. There's a book called The Degree of Persistence, how to finish your doctorate, 120 tips for how to finish your doctorate without losing your mind. This resource is also available at the website, drkesslyn.com/book. Thank you so much for being here. The doctoral degree, it is not merely a degree of intelligence. It is a degree of persistence. And we at the PhD Consultants are here to help you persist. Why? Because we know that your research matters. Thank you, everybody, for being with me during this Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Stay tuned. Listen in. There's more information to come. One more thing that I need to share. On November 14th, I am having a special series for people. It's called a success series, doctoral success series. There are people who are interested in getting your doctoral degree, but maybe you don't know where the money's going to come from, or maybe you don't know how to determine a research topic like mine is domestic violence. I have a special series just for you. It's going to be held November 14th. Now, maybe you're in a doc program and you need some support getting through that dissertation writing phase, or maybe you're wrapping up and you want information on how to transition your dissertation into publications. That information is also going to be shared on November 14th during our doctoral success series. You're going to learn more. If you want to learn more, you can go to my website, or you can go specifically to drkesslyn.com/success series. More information can be found there. Listen, I think that's it. I want to thank the people in the background who are doing the work. Thank you, Dr. Jones. Thank you, Reverend Winding. Thank you for my supporters. Thank you for all of those who are doing work. The doctoral degree is not merely a degree of intelligence. It is a degree of persistence. Remember that your research matters. Thank you much, everybody. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon and see you on November 14th. Bye-bye.